Okay, well, we'll call the meeting to order. This is Monday, August 10th, our regular council meeting. We will begin by seeing if there are any conflicts of interest that anybody needs to declare. And if not, we will take a look at the minutes from the July 13th and July 30th council meetings, which are in the packet you received not too long ago. This was our regular council meeting and our special meeting about the municipal services agreement with Tobic First Nation. I hope you've had a chance to look at these minutes. Would we have someone make the motion to approve these two sets of minutes from the July meetings? I see Sheila's hand. I see Sheila, but I heard, is that Paul that I was hearing?
Yep.
So I'm going to call you the seconder, Paul.
Okay.
Any discussion? If not, if you're ready for the question, all in favor of the motion to approve the minutes from July 13th and 30th council meetings, say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we're on to item 4 on the agenda, delegations.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Lenahan couldn't attend this evening, but he did send along some notes for me to present to council.
Okay.
I'll bring over to the presentation the letter, and this letter was sent out in the package to everyone. This is the first year that Lenahan and McCains and Associates have completed the audit for the municipality. Can everyone see that okay? Basically talks about the general statements of the audit, that he completed the audit and it was a clean or unqualified opinion, which is a desired result. They found no significant issues in doing the audit, of course. He talked about the results and in a bit more detail. Sorry, it's a lot more detail in the actual statements are included in the back. This is just sort of a summary that Mr. Lenahan pointed out. Following the required public sector accounting standards, as council notes, this is something new that was brought in a few years ago by the province, which basically has us showing our depreciation numbers in our financial statements, where before with fund accounting, it wasn't included. So basically showing a surplus of 594,469 during the year, as compared to a surplus of 813,713 during 2018. The surplus driven by subtracting the expenditures from total revenues. For that, the total year revenues last year were 7.6 million, very similar to 2018, where it was 7,051,000. The largest variance included the flood recovery. It's just the balance was zero this year versus 230,000 in 2018. Conditional grants, which reflect gas tax funding, were down 231,000. That's just the nature of when those funds are distributed. Light revenues were up approximately 200,000 in 2018, while investment income was also up. Of course, the light commission revenues, that would be from consumption, the slight rate increase, but mainly a good chunk of that would be a mini split rental program that's getting more mature as we come on with that. The investment income is significantly influenced by the change in market value of the investment portfolio. I point out 2019 was the year for the performance, which showed the investment income higher. Departments showing the largest increase in expenditures included transportation, where we did a lot of additional work and equipment for snow removal. Did more paving last year and patching. And also the efforts to do our rural plan over are also impacted in there. Of course, Rec and Culture hosted more events during 2019. Repairs and maintenance expenditures are also higher. Also, Mr. Lenahan pointed out that the overall strong financial result was achieved by the village during the 2019 year. We had a total financial assets of $7.6 million compared to the $7 million approximately in December 31st. So it showed positive progress. The financial assets or cash and assets will become cash in the future, just to clarify that. We had a pretty manageable, they felt $1 million in liabilities, which is 150,000 lower. Now, of course, at year end, our liabilities, December would be one of our bigger months for power consumption. So that would show a bigger number, of course, towards year end. The decrease, which was driven primarily to deferred revenue, was due to the deferred gas tax funding of 179,000 carried forward. There was no funding that had to be carried forward at the end of 2019. The large spread between total financial assets and the liabilities referred to as net assets. So clarifying that. Overall, the village continues to be in a solid consolidated financial position. Her comment on hand, the cash flow will be very well managed. And the one thing they point out, the village was able to invest $885,000 in tangible assets, including nearly $500,000 in infrastructure, following $1.126 million during 2018. When I talked to him about this, he's very impressed that the municipality was able to spend slightly over $2 million in the last 2 years without borrowing any money. Obviously, a lot of municipalities in the province and the ones that he does the audit for aren't able to do that. So he was very impressed that our municipality was able to do that without any borrowing. Again, his closing comments. Discovered no issue, and he congratulated the mayor and council and the senior management staff for a successful year. And he apologized he wasn't able to come this evening, but he certainly look forward to coming meeting with council at a later time. And he also suggested that if council has any follow-up questions, he's more than happy to answer them. So I'll go to the next page of the presentation, the PowerPoint. Just before, we always try to break this down to our budget and how it impacts it. So in the audit, as council members, we need to bring forward our surplus or deficit from any second prior year into the next year. So for example, here where I have the cursor, in the village general fund, we had the second previous surplus of 176,000. In the water, sewer, it was 83, and the light, 78. The number that we need to bring forward this year, or for next year's budget, is 51,268. The water and sewer, $54,025, and the light to 108,553. So you can see we still maintain basic surplus. We try to run approximately a $40,000 to $50,000 surplus each year, general water and sewer, and we try to run a surplus of 80 to 100 for unforeseen things that may pop up. And a good example this year would be the issues around COVID, with the Light Commission obviously taking a hit, and we were able to do our rate reduction for all of our businesses because we do have a little bit of a operational surplus going forward, so we don't have to move down the road to pay for this account that council provided this year. So that's, I guess, the key to it. And I guess from a staff perspective, I'd like to thank all of our staff who helped out on the audit, what they do to manage, make sure the village is managed and the expenditures are done appropriately in the community, and we try to do things as effective as we can. And the special thanks to Jamie Guest, who put a lot of work into getting the audit done this year, and she does a great job for the municipality and certainly should be commended for the work she does for it. So I guess those are the, I'll open that up for any questions for anybody on council.
None here.
Nope, none here.
I have a question.
Yep.
On the total financial assets, 2 pages ago, 3 pages ago maybe, before this, we've had an increase in the value of our total financial assets. But as you had just mentioned, I think it was before that even.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere up in that page. That includes depreciation.
Yes.
And so the reason that, yes, there it is. As shown on page 1, it says that in the middle of that page. As
Yes.
shown on page 1, the net financial, oh, wait a minute. No, that's not. No, I didn't want the financial assets. I want the other assets.
Right there.
Okay, yeah, maybe it's the top line. Financial assets includes infrastructure and things too. It's not just talking about reserves and so on, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it'd be capital purchases, things like that would show.
Yes, and the reason that we could be higher this year than last year when things depreciate and lose their value is that we are maintaining what we have and purchasing some new things. We're not just letting everything get older and crummier. Is that the explanation for that?
That would be part of it, because the cost and the value of our assets fluctuates every year. Total financial assets, and maybe the best thing for me would be to actually go to page 1 of the audit.
Okay.
Would probably be the best way, so I can get totals. Well, no, actually, and I've sort of wondered this. The financial assets include the cash on hand, which at the end of this year was 654,000. Accounts receivable was 967,000, and the marketable securities was 5,955,000 for that total of 756. So that particular number is all financial.
Okay.
But when you bring that include our tangible capital assets that you just talked about the actual assets that we own, the pipe in the ground, the buildings, things like that.
Yes.
Those tangible assets this year were 14,708,000 compared to 14,845,000. So even with the expenditures that we made on investments last year of 900,000, we still had our actual non-financial assets decrease in value with depreciation on the other. And that's where a lot of communities struggle, and we struggle with is, say for example, we spent $1 million last year approximately, and we still didn't invest enough to keep our asset value the same. So that's a challenge. But again, having said that, compared to a lot of municipalities, we are doing well. But it certainly is a challenge for our community and others to keep up with maintaining the infrastructure you have, not unless you have a plan to stop providing certain services and buildings and programs and things like that.
So the goal with the value of tangible assets, the stuff, is to about break even, so that things are kind of wearing out and losing value, but we're also improving and maintaining and sometimes purchasing new and replacing. Is it kind of a break-even goal, would you say, for tangible assets?
No, to be honest, the goal for the tangible assets, if council's of the position in the community that we want to keep all the same assets that we have today, we want to have all the same sidewalks, all the same streets, and all that stuff. The problem we have is that $14 million that we're showing is based on cost 5, 10, 50 years ago. This is the replacement cost. So even if we're just meeting the actual numbers, say our depreciation number is $1 million a year, if we're just going to spend $1 million a year, we're still going to go behind, because the replacement cost, like say for example, we have a fire truck in there that we paid originally $200,000 for, and now it's going to be $350,000 to replace it. So certainly the goal would be to have it significant than just matching your depreciation. That's for sure. In a perfect world, that's again assuming that councils want to maintain every single asset that we have, and we don't want to eliminate them.
Yeah.
Or also, be clear on that too, add any new facility.
Okay, thank you for that. Other councilors?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have one. And I apologize. I'm driving in the car, so I don't have the papers in front of me. But on the email that you had sent out to us there, underneath the fire department budget, there was one line that talked about chief's budget, and it was budgeted for, it was either $3,000 or $30,000, and it said the actual was $30. And I was just wondering if that was a typo or if that was something that was real or what. It just,
Yeah,
that number just jumped out to me because of that.
Okay, I'll check that, Jason. I'll get that back to you.
Thanks.
Any other questions from counselors?
None for me.
Nope.
Oh, looks good to me.
We do certainly congratulate our staff for preparing or for managing our money such that we get a good report from the accountant, and we congratulate Jamie on her dedication to this too. We are a fortunate municipality in a good place financially. So there are lots and lots of pages in our bundle, but we're not going to be looking through them all page by page because we've heard the summary.
And the other thing, Mayor Bell, I need on that, we do need a motion to adopt the audit statement.
Yes, and it looks like Sheila is making that motion. Would there be a second?
Second.
I think I heard Dave
Yes, you did.
is the seconder for that. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, so the motion is to accept or approve the financial statements as presented by Lenahan through the CAO. All in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Bye.
Opposed? Carried. That's great. That's it's nice to have it done so soon too. I don't think we've had it in August. I don't think we've ever had it in warm weather before, have we? So good. Okay, so now we're on to number 5 on the agenda, unfinished business. We have a lot of items here. The first one is 5A, municipal service agreement with Tobic First Nation. So Dan, you want to say a word about that?
Yeah, it's just more to make sure we put it through this meeting. That was it's in the minutes that was approved. The municipalities entered into an agreement that was in the local media regarding municipal service agreement for the truck stop property. And that municipal agreement covers water and sewer, fire protection, and also has Tobic First Nation supporting our recreation programs financially from that property. So it's certainly a nice step. It's the first agreement that we've ever had that I'm aware of with Tobic First Nations. And part of it, just that, as Mayor Bell was quite pleased about in council, that there's a commitment to meet quarterly to discuss issues relating to that property, but also other issues that face the neighboring communities.
There's also provisions for all kinds of problem solving, and if this should happen, this should happen. It's quite extensive, and it's a great document that I think we can all be very pleased with. Any questions or comments about that? Okay, we'll move on to 5B, healthcare reform update. I think this is my turn. On July 29th, I had an opportunity to meet with the Deputy Minister of Health, Gerald Richard, along with the Associate Deputy Minister of Health, Renee Boudreau, and Tracy Burkhardt, Executive Director, Planning, Performance, and Alignment for the Department of Health. And I was accompanied by the Mayor of Rogersville, Pierrette Robichaud, and the Deputy Mayor of Sackville. So we wanted to talk about healthcare reform, and we wanted to talk about what are the problems they were trying to solve in February, and where's the data that pointed them to those problems, and what's going to happen now that that plan was halted. So I've got some minutes, and I'm trying to get the other participants in the meeting to take a look at my minutes and just confirm that what I understood was to be the case. But the bottom line is that they do not feel, from the Deputy Minister, They are not planning to submit or re-implement the plan that was trashed in February. There will be no reform, they said, before extensive consultation, and they say that the Premier is indeed planning to come to all the communities and meet with us, the 6 communities, I mean, and that they're planning to do a big kind of a consultation. And we talked a lot, the 6 of us who were at the meeting, about what a consultation might look like in this time of pandemic and so on. We talked about virtual lectures and questions and answers and input and surveys and consultation and all that sort of thing. The problems that they seem most concerned about are health, human resources, people retiring and people wanting to share the work, say a specialist share call schedules instead of doing all the work 24/7. They're really worried about seniors care and the long-term care beds in the hospital. And they're worried about primary care because they say we spend more on in-hospital care than on office visit care, which is not surprising, but they say we have worse health come out, like we have worse health as New Brunswickers than other provinces. So then they gave us all kinds of data. They gave me a huge binder with hospital data from all the hospitals in the province. They've given me all kinds of other emails and told us that any data we want, well, I'm going to say that we get, if we just, I know who to ask. So the 3 of us from Sackville, Rogersville, and me, we were all quite pleased with the meeting. I told them that I really thought the Premier needed to say very plainly that the healthcare reforms in February are gone forever. And they kind of said that that was likely to happen and that the Premier would be replying to the letter that I wrote on July 3rd saying that we're really looking to talk to him about what's going to happen next. But they certainly led us to believe that they're going to start kind of back to the beginning and try and figure out how to solve problems, and they invited our input. So now I'm at the position of needing to figure out how to move forward with all this data I now have in a binder and in emails and the access to more, and who to get organized in this community who might want to look at the data and submit ideas or brainstorm ideas or research ideas. So I'm not exactly sure what the next steps are, but I do feel reasonably confident that we will not be assaulted with those reforms again. Now, I did hear today on the news in the last hour before the meeting that the Premier is saying that if the other party leaders will agree not to topple the government, that they will not call an election this fall. So if they called an election, that would put the whole healthcare reform in a different light, because we'd want to be asking for a commitment from any MLA candidate or any leader that they wouldn't take away services that we rely on here. So if there's a provincial election, we know some questions that we want to ask. And if there is not, and there's a commitment, it occurred to me that I would almost want to ask the other leaders to commit to me that they will not support the same kind of healthcare reform as was proposed in November. Maybe there's an argument to me asking, say, the leader of the Green Party or the People's Alliance to make sure if they're going to support the current government in the minority, that they won't, to demand that they not come up with a healthcare reform that's so devastating to us. So anyway, that's some things that have happened in healthcare reform, and I'd invite any comments or questions from the council.
So Marianne, are you going to get a group together to look at that stuff, or are you just going to get individuals?
Like, I don't know. It's so hard to get groups together now. And and I'm not exactly sure what to do next.
Or whether you divide it into sections and get different people to look at, and then Zoom to share what they glean from it.
Or even pull pages out of the binder and send them around to different people and just get them to look at them at their leisure. Or I'm really not sure. I think probably the most logical thing would be to call a small meeting of some key people, maybe a Zoom meeting, but it probably wouldn't happen until September. I will say that when they asked how the premier, when he comes around, how that would work. And what I suggested with the premier's visit, let's say that there's not a provincial election this fall and the premier does his visits to the 6 communities. I said, I thought the way that would be most functional would be if, say, if he came to our town, if I put him with, say, 4 to 6 people who have something serious to say about healthcare in our community, and they all prepared a statement, and then we kind of had a chance for each one of them to read their statement, deliver their statement to the premier, and then have a little back and forth conversation about it. If several people, maybe somebody was talking about the emergency room, somebody was talking about mental health, somebody was talking about ambulance, this sort of thing, 5 or 6 different people. And then we had a bit of a question answer, all moderated. And if this whole conversation was broadcast or recorded on YouTube for the whole community to see, so we could hear what the premier really had to say about these issues. That's sort of the model that I suggested to the deputy minister. And it seemed to be something that they thought the premier would appreciate, because I don't want, as I've said numerous times, I'm not looking for a friendly conversation with the premier. We want something that matters, that will be documented, and that will be well prepared so that we can choose very carefully which points we make to him as he thinks about these issues from a high level. I don't think he's going to be scheduling the consultations until he decides what he's doing about a provincial election. So as I think about what maybe what to do next in terms of healthcare reform, I'd invite any of the councillors to send me their ideas, and if I maybe at the end of the summer when I'm thinking about organizing a response or next steps, I will certainly welcome anything that you have to say, and probably you'll know whatever we might want to do next. So I do invite you to offer your feedback. Any comments or questions there? Okay, let's go on then to 5C, COVID-19 updates.
Yeah, I guess everyone's been watching all the media and how the Atlantic bubble's working out and things. And unfortunately, I guess the last week or so, we've had a few more cases in New Brunswick, but the strategy the province has been doing to have people isolate when they come to the province seems to be working very well. The system seems to be going as it should, which is nice. People seem to be out, from what I'm hearing. The tourism seems to be up. People seem to be traveling a bit more. As far as the municipal side of things go, we're not seeing a huge pickup in our things yet. Our attendance to some of our stuff probably for some events a third of what it was last year for the more normal time, but considering the circumstances, that's something to be expected. Although I must say on the weekend, I was couldn't believe the number of bass boats, four-wheelers, ski-doos, boats on the water, and motorcycles going by through the community. I couldn't believe how busy the river was on the weekend, which was great. Great to see. People stopping in for our local businesses while they're here, so that was really nice. And we're preparing for the municipality. Staff are working on an operational plan for the River Valley Civic Center. Right now, we're working off of what we believe is most current requirements from the province and drafting our plan. But as everyone knows through this process, things certainly seem to change quickly and things. It's the middle of August yet. I'm sure a lot of things will change. Like, for example, right now, we'd only be allowed, our belief is now only 50 spectators in the arena. And obviously for a senior hockey team who relies on their fan base for revenues, that certainly doesn't work for them. So we'll just play it by ear and make whatever changes we have to. One thing, I started hoping we'd have them done for tonight, but we're putting a spin on the traditional picnic table. We're come up with a COVID picnic table with a 6.5-foot top, And so we'll have those set up outside our office, I believe, by Wednesday this week or Thursday, for groups who would like to have meetings, and also for council or any of our committees to do so, meeting the 6-foot physical distancing thing. So we'll promote that we have those available in the community for anyone that would like to have a COVID safe meal, supposedly, or picnic table. So we're trying to do those, and I know the staff at the Water or Adventure Center are doing a great job sanitizing everything. We've got a lot of good positive comments on how well the staff are doing there, and how polite and courteous they are and getting the equipment and things done. They certainly they're a big round of applause. They've done a great job, and they've been very good at the COVID regulations and requirements that we have in place and things. And I received some positive comments on the weekend also about the washroom facility. It's available there for people on the water to be able to stop there and use that washroom facility. They think that one person told me they think that building's fabulous there, and about how it can be relocated in the wintertime for the outdoor arena. So it's a council did kudos for that on the weekend, which was nice. So, but other than that, as far as the federal and provincial things, I don't have a whole lot to report up on the normal stuff, not unless Mayor Bell has something to add there.
No, I think things have been pretty well going along the same. There haven't been too many new developments in terms of changes to guidance documents. And the numbers have been quite consistent in our province, so I don't really have, no, I don't think I'll add anything there. I'll just see if any of the councillors have a question or a comment. And I don't see that we do, so we'll thank you very much for that, and we'll go on to the next item, D, the list of capital and special projects.
Okay. Well, maybe to move this on, maybe I can get through the ones on each slide, and if anybody has any questions on them. I do want to talk a bit about the boardwalk project and the location of the grass strip area that we talked about. I'll come back to that. But the line painting has been all done. As I mentioned earlier, we're waiting for DTI to come and do our chip sealing of a couple of streets inside the municipality. The patching was completed by our staff. The branding webpage project, I've been waiting for an update on that. I sent another email off wanting an update on that. We're still waiting on that. I did have a call just over a week ago with the Glen Group regarding our green space project. She showed me a draft of a plan that she'd worked on, very neat design, and they're developing a storyboard to go along with it. I was hoping I would have had that by Friday of I guess the last week. I still don't have that, so I'll certainly pass that on to the committee and council just as soon as I get it. We did receive back on the water and sewer line extension on Foster Street. We did have the surveyor finally provided us the drawings so we can get the manholes ordered with the proper elevation. We have a couple of concerns on the elevation of the pipe and how deep it is below the roads. We may try to raise the elevation of the pipe up a little bit. Currently, the sewer line's 13 feet below the road, and we certainly don't feel that it needs to be that deep going up the hill. There's a slight grade there. And there'll be plenty of coverage over it. So we'll look at increasingly doing that. It's a lot of excavation cost on that project. We'll try to get that finalized. But one thing on the boardwalk project, we talked about changing all the parking to parallel alongside the road. And we looked at having a little green grass strip along there, like similar to what we have in some other areas. Now, we talked about doing that grass strip or even doing it out of paving stones along there. Now we've run into, when we looked at the design of that, whether we had the grass in the front or in the back by the railing. If traditionally we like to have that grass buffer there to protect it just from traffic going by. The one thing in this area, after we talked about it, is that's all parallel parking on there. So we don't have a lot of people pulling in straight into those areas. So the risk of pedestrians is reduced significantly. So one of the issues, if we leave the grass strip where we originally talked about it by the edge between the curb and the sidewalk, one of the issues back, and Councillor McLaughlin touched on this earlier, is that we have those power lines that run between those lights there. What we talked about doing originally, we talked about doing a thickened slab at the back end of that sidewalk and including those pipes in concrete, roughly about 12 inches thick. Is one option as opposed to just running a 4-foot concrete slab there. We looked at that option, which can be done, but of course it's more expensive, and hopefully you would never have any issues with your piping concrete afterwards. And we also talked about having it that thick in the back in case we ever wanted to replace the handrail. And the only issue from a maintenance perspective is with the grass right next to the curb and the road, and us wanting to bring that stuff off there, there's an extra risk to the grass being. So we looked at the option of maybe moving the sidewalk to the back side of the curb and having the grass area between, I guess, the sidewalk and the railing. And one thing that does, for maintenance wise, it allows us to get in and plow that off easier. It will make it easier on DTI doing this for snow removal. It also allows us the option then to just direct bury that wire. And then also down the road, if council decides they want to do a new railing, we'd have some soft surface to do the new railing just inside the existing one. We wouldn't have to grow it into that riprap. So it sort of seems to be, from a maintenance perspective and a construction cost basis, moving the sidewalk, the 6 feet of sidewalk weighted behind the curb seems to be more cost effective and maybe a little better maintenance wise also. So I guess I was hoping to get some feedback from council on that. We also looked at the cost of pavers compared to grass, and looked at some other communities and the pavers, the issue around them up and down and settling and things like that. The cost is, of course, substantially more for the pavers compared to the grass. We estimate that depending on what paver we went with, it would be $10 to $12 a square foot. Now, part of the issue we have, if we go on the side, if we move the sidewalk in, then the pavers need to have a rigid backing towards the river. And that would be hard unless we ran some type of border up along there from settling. You can do grass, but eventually they would rise and up and down and things like that. So the grass is certainly easier to maintain and done at a fifth of the cost at least.
Seems like there are a lot of reasons to put the grass closer to the railing. Councillors, what do you think?
Would the grass be going under the railing, or is there still a cement border there? Like, I just imagine trying to whippersnip underneath that railing would be time consuming.
Yeah, we have that same issue now, Jason. The grass grows up underneath that railing now. One thing we talk about doing is that maybe when we go to do that lawn, we would slope it so we could make sure we could get a mower underneath it. The post now to make it a little easier for maintenance, but we do have that issue now of grass growing up there now.
I'm having a hard time picturing sidewalk then grass and a railing. Like, I just feel like people want to step up to the railing or walk along the railing when they're walking on the boardwalk, and if there's 3 or 4 feet of grass there or 6 feet of grass, like, I just have a hard time picturing that being used or like how that would look or feel. Like, I am more inclined to go the other way.
Oh, very good. Yeah, one thing we talked about doing that would allow council, I sort of have to have a special for you guys tonight that I was the section from the bridge down Bank of Nova Scotia where we have a wider grass section. We talked about spots there where we would bring the concrete right over to the railing and perhaps put in something like round concrete picnic tables in there, or some type of decorative tables to make it more, give people more reason to go there and use it, down along that green area.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
But I can certainly get council sort of a better sketch on it. Again, I was hoping to have it for tonight, just to give you guys a better visual on it too. Because I know when I first was getting my head around it too, I was the same way that well, geez, you know, people want to walk up to the railing, but we still think that people will do that regardless whether there's grass or sidewalk there.
Anyone else have a comment on that? How soon do you need, like, how soon do you need us to make a decision on that, Dan?
Well, on that one, sooner rather than later, is we've got a company lined up to do the curb work, which I'm hoping to be here in the middle of August. So we'd like to get the tender out for the sidewalk work. And there's a huge difference in the sidewalk contracts versus the one where it just be, for example, a 50-inch wide or 60-inch wide, 4-inch concrete versus a slab at the back where they have to encase the pipe and rebar and things like that. So to get that tender, to get pricing on the sidewalk sooner rather than later would be good.
So if you were able to get us a picture or something by the end of and we were all jumping in on an email to discuss it by the end of the week, would that work?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So would you be able to give us and maybe just even in point form some of the benefits that you saw from putting the grass on that side, and then other, you know, whatever, just, you know, I'm not a long drawn out thing, but just enough so we can maybe, and then whoever gives input by the end of the week will be part of the decision, but we can't really wait until the next council meeting to talk about it more, so.
Can I speak for a minute?
Yes, please do.
Okay, I agree with the whole grass by the railing thing, because it does make sense, because the wires are accessible then and everything else. But I was kind of under the impression with the concrete out to the railing, that was going to support the railing.
Yeah, me too.
We had
Yeah.
issues with the railing itself.
Yeah, I think that it supported the supports by laying over the top of that the railing there, but the railing is welded down to those existing piers now with the steel work that Billy did last year.
Okay, as long as you're happy that it's solid now, then I'm good with that.
Well,
was
it's
thinking that-
solid. Dave, I believe it's solid for people going out and leaning on it.
Yeah.
For us putting a loader up against it, it probably isn't.
It's never gonna, never gonna be. You gotta keep the boys off it.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I'm good with that then. Thanks.
Okay, let's get a little bit more so we can sort of see a little bit better what we're looking at, and then try and everybody take a look at your email a couple times in the week and see if you can throw an opinion into the mix. Were there any other questions about that first bunch of capital and special projects? Okay, we'll continue on then with the next batch.
Okay, we on the power line extension on Foster Street for the new APD building. We were fortunate, we received the transformer. One of our employees went down to St. John and picked it up this, I guess, last Tuesday. Rolly's crew was set to install it, but they had a bunch of their crew now gone away storm chasing. So I don't know the actual installation date of that, but we're certainly on schedule with the pole installation, and the transformer pad has been delivered to the site. So I think everything's good there as far as the power line extension. Full plan update, that's still something I'm waiting to hear back from Frank on, and then also how we do the actual public session on that, and kind of interested to see how some other communities are going to handle that, because a lot of other communities are updating their plans also. So it'll be interesting to see how everybody in the fall is going to handle the public meeting for that. And the SCADA system improvements, I know today, Philip, they were working on, or getting ready to work on the connections to the lagoon facility. We have to cut some trees. I believe the box and the equipment has arrived for that part of it. So we'll certainly get at that. And the EV chargers, I had a call about that this morning. The group has narrowed it down to 2 different types of chargers. We're just trying to finalize we've all purchased the same charger, or if some utilities favor one over the other, is that acceptable or not? I hoping that we'll have something in the next few weeks on that, so we can get our order in and get some installed this fall. We're in the process locally of doing our memorandum of understandings with the different sites where we would like to put them. We're working on one with the hospital. We've come up with a location there that works for the hospital and maintenance staff, and also us, that's highly visible. And then also the library facility here and the center parking lot for now. The ones we're trying to get done immediately. Other than that, the other thing too, we may see someone in town the next couple of nights doing leak detection on our system for us again this year. We've had a company from Halifax the past several years, and it certainly is a benefit to us. They pick up leaks that aren't detectable on the system. The gentleman will be going through the community, I think, over 2 nights when it's quiet to do the leak detection and things. So hopefully we'll have that done this week and find out where we might have some leaks in the system. We suspect where we've got 2 or 3 smaller ones now that are mainly connections to residential property. We'll hopefully be able to get a better idea of exactly where it's located. As to starting at the road and digging all the way to the house, hopefully we can get a better idea of pinpointing the location. That was it on those that group.
Okay, any questions or comments from council on that batch? Lots to take care of. Doesn't it make you just wish snow plowing would just start up again?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go on to number 6, correspondence.
It's at the first letter received from the Keith Sullivan, the president of the Twin River Snowmobile Club. They're looking to build a building. They need one that require electricity, water, and sewer. They would like us to identify land that may be available for a storage facility, preferably on the Perth Andover side. Initially, the building would be to store and maintain the groomer. In addition, maybe expand to accommodate a potential clubhouse to allow for meetings and fundraisers to be held. Snowmobile trails are an important economic factor for a small village and provide access to many snowmobilers in winter months. They provide additional tourism income within Perth Andover and surrounding area. And so I guess they're just asking that if we could identify some land, preferably on the Perth side, that would have those services that they could locate. I had some initial discussions with someone from the club, but I guess we have to take a closer look at it now, and maybe if anyone on council has suggestions of possible locations, I could certainly pass those on to the club.
So my question was, are they asking for municipal lands that they could build on, or are they asking us to suggest vacant lots that they could buy or existing buildings they could renovate? I wasn't quite sure I understood that.
Yeah, from my understanding, letter, it was more if they asked us to identify any land that may be available, and whether that's privately owned or municipally owned. I think it could be either.
Okay. And why would they be doing that rather than just doing a search themselves, driving up and down the roads in Perth? Are they giving us a chance to think this would be a nice thing in this neighborhood, or we'd like to see that kind of a building on this street? Is that what they're offering us?
Yeah, I think in part of it too, maybe like a zoning issue too, that maybe they would like some feedback from us of lots that council felt it would be appropriate to go to also.
Any questions or ideas from council?
Yeah, I remember when we spoke about that earlier, I did go back and walk through the trailer park, and it is quite a bit larger than I thought back there, and it's a lot of open space. I remember when we spoke about that potential area before, I thought that it would be, if I lived in the trailer park, I wouldn't necessarily want it right on top of me, but it is quite a large vacant space on the backside by the trail there. So that's my 2 cents. I just looked at it after we spoke about it last time there.
Thank you. Anybody else?
No, I agree with Jason. The trailer park would be an ideal spot for them if it's. I'm not sure what they're asking. Are they looking for free land? They're looking to buy land? Looking to rent land? I'm not sure what they want. So.
That's my understanding that they're looking for some possible land that the town can donate to them. And that's the area where they'd like to have it, is over by the trailer park, off the trail. That lower lot over from the playground.
Yeah.
That's my understanding on it, and that's kind of why they approached the town to see if they would donate the land to them.
They didn't really specify that, but
Yeah, I know.
we have a building there on Beach Glen Road, just almost coming in, like it used to be DNR or something right there.
Right
Yeah,
after, isn't it?
Yeah, the
Oh,
old,
that's old.
Right after.
the other building.
The old curling club.
Might be, it wasn't curling maybe in my lifetime here, but they want to build a whole new building themselves. And I mean, it would be lovely to have a big building in the community that they were paying taxes on and maintaining and having gatherings in and so on. But so we wouldn't suggest, well, we could suggest them that something there could be renovated maybe, or it's not right adjacent to the trail. Maybe that's a significant factor.
I think that you're going to find they're going to want it in the, leave it in the town's name so they don't have to pay taxes. I think you need to call Keith, and I think you need to verify quite a bit of stuff.
Okay, so if there's other things between the lines and we're not catching them, Dan, we're going to get you to clarify that all.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll give Keith a call from the club.
Sure, thank you. The next item of correspondence I can say something about. This is from the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra, and it was telling me as the mayor that the Sistema program, which has been offered in our community for something like 6 or 7 years maybe, providing violin and cello instruction to children. It started at Tobic First Nation, Masso School, and then it moved to Andover Elementary. It's not going to be continuing as of this fall. It finished in the spring with COVID, I guess, and it will not be continued. So that's a loss to our community, because that was a great after-school activity and skill development and music and so on. Sheila, you have something to say?
Yes. I spoke with some of the people today and involved, a couple people, and they are looking at trying to come up with an alternative program so that those kids don't miss entirely out on this. And so they were asking, what fundraising things would be possible, what types of things, and they were suggesting that maybe if it was, some funds that could be raised so that they could offer an alternative program for the kids, and maybe the parents would help with some of it, the kids, that then we'd find sponsors in that for the rest of it. So it is being discussed, and I think there's a meeting coming up in the next few days to try to see how they can salvage a part of that.
That's good. It is a wonderful program, and we have supported them through the Fire Lotto Village Donations Committee, I do believe.
Yeah,
So,
I told them that that's where they would have to apply for the village. We didn't have other funds, but that they could go to the other service clubs and things, that would be something to consider.
yeah. Well, we'll look forward to seeing some local people come up with an alternative that might offer more continuation there. Anything else about that from anyone? Okay, then we'll move on to the third item of correspondence, tax assessment notices.
Yes, the province is asking municipalities to promote the new property assessment methodology that we're doing this year. And I think we've talked about this before at council, that property owners on October 1st will see their new assessment notice will arrive. As people remember, years ago, you used to get your assessment notice and your tax bill at the same time. Province now is sending out your assessment on October 1st, which gives you 30 days to file a request for review. And then your bill will go back out again as normal on March 1st. So it gives the property owners adequate time to appeal their assessment prior to getting their actual bill. So this is something new, and for municipalities, I guess we have some questions around the impact on municipal budgets and how that will work, because obviously the province is going to give us our number from them. So one of the concerns we have is what happens with the appeals, that if a lot of assessments are lowered, how does that affect next year's budget? We believe that it will be something that's carried over, so we can see the impact in here. I just want everybody to be aware of that when you do get it on October 1st, that you can appeal it if you feel that it's too high, or you can even appeal it if you feel it's too low and would like to pay more property.
We're all muted, but we're really, really laughing hard at that notion there, David.
Tough crowd, tough crowd.
Okay, any comments from councillors about that item of correspondence? We'll hear more about that, and people will be quite confused when they get their notice, I'm sure, in October. That's going to be, well, there'll probably be a fair bit of explanation from the province, but we may have to help people understand that too. All right, so now we are on to reports, and I will hand it over back to Dan there.
I guess a lot of from the municipal staff perspective, as you guys know from earlier reports, a lot of it's been on projects and programs that we do have running this. Our building permits are up this year. The value of the building permits is up substantially this year, and we actually, it's nice to see in the community, and a lot of housing sales and land sales in Perth Andover in the area. From what people tell me, a lot of homes are selling, a lot of people moving back to the community, which is great to see. From the stats in there, the one thing that is kind of interesting, our garbage tonnage is up while our recycling tonnage is down year. So I don't know if that's people aren't. I know a big part of it are curbside pickups, basically the same, but the large dumpsters, of course, with the school not being active, of course, too, that hurt the amount. But it's also providing that service in LSDs on has lowered that number. As you can see, our recycling tonnage in total is down about 22% compared to this time last year. And then registrations, things like that, some things are up, things are down. The energy consumption at the Civic Center, of course, is down, which is great to see that the consumption is going down in correspondence with the usage. And power consumptions, our total watt hours purchased, we're down 3.1% from last year. So probably less activity, commercial community as a result of COVID. The other utilities are seeing a similar 2 to 3% reduction. Sales also. And power outages, we've been great. We had a couple of planned outages in the last few weeks. And the well consumption is up slightly, and hopefully we get the leak detection stuff to sort that out this week. And we're finding, as you can see below, that a lot of the, for example, the pool lap swims are down significantly compared to last year. Of course. And other than that, just all the normal projects and stuff going on. It's been a busy summer, and our staff have been doing a great job trying to keep up on everything, and right down to the young fellows we have doing the sanitizing of the railings and the benches and the mowing and things like that. Appreciate all the hard work all of our staff are doing this summer for the community.
I'm sure nobody's summer workday looks quite like they would have expected it to look. A lot more on the cleaning side and keeping a distance from people. We do appreciate the good work of our staff. Are there any questions or comments from councillors about the municipal department report? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the fire department report.
And this report was in your kit. The year-to-date, the calls are 80. We had 11 calls during July compared to 8 last year. The big thing for us is the motor vehicle calls, of course. It's down from last year to below. Year-to-date last year was 35. Year-to-date this year is 25, so it's down some, but we'd certainly like to see that number down a bit lower. Although having said that, I believe talking with Chief Walker, we did go to two vehicle calls that we did actually, they did require the fire department to provide a service at recently. So a lot of those calls, some of those calls are justified. They're not all just driving out and driving back. That in the fire department, they did a great job. A recent structural fire that we had on Fort Road. Commend all of our staff. Hope is very proud of the efforts of the firemen, fire ladies that we have on the department thing. So I hope they do a great job.
We've had a very long, hot, dry summer, and it's been good that we haven't had we've had risk of forest fires in the province, but we haven't had significant forest fire activity in the province from what I understand. So I do appreciate the caution of people in our community in watching the guidance and not burning when they're not supposed to, because we don't want to start anything. We don't want to put our firefighters at risk. Are there any questions or comments about the fire department report from any councillor? Okay, so now we're on to 7C council member reports. I just have a couple really brief things to mention. I did participate in an HR meeting about the manual. I went down to the Carleton County Toy Run, pulled some tickets on behalf of the village. I met with the CEO of King's Landing, who came up here on July 21st, who's just newly the CEO of King's Landing, and she was talking about making some connections with different communities all over New Brunswick and maybe trying to do some partnerships where there could be some linked activities in municipalities. I thought that was neat. I'm eager to hear that. And she's really interested in the Tomlinson Lake Hike to Freedom. And so Joe G and Graham Nickerson were also here talking to her. And so I think there's a lot of growth potential with that event, and it's right beside our community. And I think we want to get behind that. I think they are planning an event again for this fall in October. And then I had all this stuff about the healthcare reform. I had a telephone conversation with Ken McGeorge, who has written a book about healthcare reform in New Brunswick, chatting with him. And he's writing a lot of editorials on Friday about healthcare reform, saying things that I think we understand and are happy to have passed on. Then we had the signing of the municipal services agreement with Chief Ross on July 21st. And I'm still doing a weekly video message from the mayor. Someday I'm going to not do them anymore, but I keep doing them now. So if you have an idea of something that needs to be said, you're my message, you go ahead and let me know. Okay, we'll just pop around the table then, and I'll ask Deputy Mayor Sheila Cummings to tell us about any activities you've been involved in.
Nothing major this month.
Okay. We'll go to Paul Kinney.
Yeah, no, same thing as me. Nothing, nothing that major, other than a guy called the other day that happened to be walking his dog out on the ski trail, and I guess we've been doing some thinning there for brush cutting, and he was concerned about the stubs that are being left, how far they're sticking up. He thinks that someone might fall and hurt herself, and I said I'd bring it to the attention of council, but I also told him go to the town office and to have a complaint. And one other was, but I see it's coming up here on Sightly Premises over on Perth Hill Garbage. I'll talk about it then.
We, yeah, we can always refer people to call the village office and just ask for the information they need, and then if it turns into a complaint, that can happen. Okay, Cindy, any activities?
No, I've been on vacation for the last 2 weeks.
Okay, Jason Green.
Yeah, I just I had reached out to Ross Perling, so that's coming up later on, so I won't say anything else about that. And I spoke to the lifeguards at the pool, just getting in touch with them about how they felt the year went with the changes that we had done. They said it was not very busy. They'd never had it maxed out during public swim. The adult that swim's been full a few times, but and their swimming lesson numbers were quite down. Surprising considering how much, how many people reached out to us wanting to have the pool open, but their numbers were down significantly. That's it.
Thank you. And Dave.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, councilors. We'll move on to number 8, bylaws. And we're back to animal control.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I was hoping to have something back from the SPCA for tonight. Unfortunately, I don't. I've come back to them to pass on the council, but as soon as I get that, I'll have something for sure by our September meeting.
Okay, thank you. Dan, you're breaking up a little bit on my end. I don't know if other people are hearing you loud and clear. We'll move on to number 9 then, motions and notices of motions.
Yeah, so the first motion is to accept the painting tender that we talked about last month. This includes the railing from the bridge to Village Automotive. And this company also will be performing warranty work on the section of work they did from the bridge to the Irving at the same time.
Okay. And the motion is in our kit, is it not?
Just in the slide that I have up on the screen now.
So do we need, this is actually a motion to adopt
Yes, please.
this
Yeah.
request, okay.
And
So
there-
Sheila, are you making the motion?
Yes.
Okay, and would there be a seconder? Cindy?
Second.
So we have talked about this in other meetings. Any further discussion on this? Okay, if we're ready for the vote then, all in favor of approving the RFP by LDG Contracting to paint the railing from the bridge to Automobile Village, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we have a new motion. And I think Jason is going to speak on this.
Yeah, I can. Is this mine?
Yes, number 2, yes, a motion to approve RVC Willis Wave flag.
Okay, we had spoken about it once, quite a little while back, and then after we reached the new mutual agreement with Tobic recently, we remembered that, so I reached out to Ross to ask him about what he felt about us potentially flying a Holistic Way flag in the Civic Center alongside the Canadian, New Brunswick, and American one. And he supported the idea. And I feel that it's a territorial flag that represents the land that the Civic Center serves. It certainly serves people from Tobic First Nation as well. And being that it's a territorial flag along with the other territorial flags that are flown in the Civic Center, I think it would be a good gesture at this time to fly the flag. And along with it, I guess I would suggest that we adopt the provincial flag policy. There is a manual provided by the province that tells you how the flag should be flown and whatnot. So that's my motion.
Second.
So Jason's made the motion. I think what we'll do is we'll just, we'll leave off the part about adopting the provincial flag policy just because we haven't laid eyes on that policy yet.
Okay.
But we will definitely, I can see definitely investigating that policy and making it a matter of course that we would follow it. It doesn't seem like it would be earth-shattering to do that. But just because we haven't seen the policy, I'd prefer not to have a vote on that. So we have the motion
No
from
problem.
Jason. Is there a seconder? Sheila? Now, discussion. Would any counselor like to speak about this motion?
I think it's a very appropriate time to be doing it. You know, we've made this agreement with them. It is a territorial flag. It's not some, you know, specialty group or anything. It's not anything like that. So I think it's very appropriate time and to be doing that. So
I agree.
I'm seeing
Great.
nods. Where they are contributing money to the recreation budget.
Yep.
It is appropriate that we fly the flag at the circuit, and I fully agree with you. So are we ready for the question?
question.
All in favor of the motion to approve flying the Willistic Green flag at the River Valley Civic Center in addition to the flags we already have, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Jason, for taking the lead on that.
No problem.
I think that's terrific, and it's part of the relationship building, and it's a straightforward acknowledgement we can do as a village. I think it's terrific. Okay, motion 9C, Central Valley Fire Mutual Aid Agreement, and this was in our package. And Dan, you are on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, this is an agreement that we've had with the other fire departments in the valley here for years. Just putting it right, it basically says that we'll help people, we'll help other fire departments, and then they'll help us also. It just sort of puts it into a written form. We've been doing this for years, and just puts it into an actual document for us.
Have we had a document version of it? Is this the
Not
first
before
time?
that I'm aware of.
Are there any, so who wrote this agreement up?
I believe it was originally it was done up by the fire chiefs group in the area.
Okay.
It would have had input from all the fire chiefs.
So our fire chief has looked at it and has given it his blessing?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
Are there any cautions about it that you see?
No.
Any questions or comments about that from the council? Would there be someone who would make the we need a motion to adopt this, do we not?
So moved.
Oh, Paul moved it?
Yep.
A second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Dave, second. I'm hearing an echo of myself. Any further discussion? All right, if we're ready for the question, all in favor of adopting the Central Valley Fire Mutual Aid Agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, and then the IT services RFP, Dan, maybe you can summarize this again for us.
This one, the staff, when I received input from, I believe, 3 different companies to provide IT services for the municipality. And Brunnet was the low bidder, but I guess the best out of the offers we received. It was hard to compare the bids because some, for example, one company, they provided basically hourly rates. But they also had, if you needed them quickly, the rate was significantly higher. If you needed them in the short term, there was a medium price range. And if it was something that wasn't in a hurry, it was a lower rate. So it was kind of hard to tell what their actual cost would be at the end. The Brunnet proposal came in not a third of the cost of the other competitor, but close to it. So staff recommended Brunnet. The total cost to them is approximately $11,214 for the year based on previous usage. And I think Councillor Kenny mentioned too about checking other communities. We've had positive feedback from communities that use and businesses that use Brunnet.
would we have someone make the motion then to accept the RFP from Brunnet?
So
moved.
Okay, so I think I heard Paul and Dave. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, if not, all in favor of adopting a motion to hire Brunnet for our IT services, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried, thank you. On the second page of the agenda now. Number 10, new business. It's not really that new, but it's new for the purposes of this agenda. Unsightly premises and garbage containers. Okay, Dan, tell us about this. And you're on mute right this moment.
Yes, we have received some complaints about unsightly premises, and also in the last, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks, complaints about some garbage containers not being properly looked after in the community now. We do have some vacant properties in the municipality that aren't being properly maintained or secured. And the other issue around that is also the garbage containers. The council has never had a policy on garbage containers. We've talked about it different times over the years. And some of the concerns were that not everybody could afford a proper IPL, I believe they're called, those larger roll-out containers. So the councils in the past has allowed people to have wooden, homemade wooden boxes, makeshift boxes. In some cases, and we've all seen them, people will have deep freezers, old deep freezers out by the road as their garbage container. And I know from the garbage collection perspective of it, our contractor, and everyone certainly prefers to have the proper garbage containers for picking up. It's easier, they roll easy, they load easy. And if municipalities are looking at going towards an automated pickup for their garbage pickup, like the Rustic has done, everyone needs to be on the same page. So I guess I wanted to get some clarification from council on those, on garbage containers, about the direction that council would like to go. I don't know if this is something that I don't believe council can just decide tonight, but I think that we've got some issues around there. We have, it's not fair to people that if they're keeping their property up and properly maintained, and people are leaving out garbage, and it's getting eaten by the crows and thrown all over. And we're not getting just these complaints only on Perth Hill either. Like, we get them, last one I had was a subdivision on the Andover side. People complaining about people putting the garbage out and animals getting into it, and the homeowner not picking it up in a timely fashion. So I don't know if this is something that council feels that they want to address by coming up with something where by a certain date, and there's different ways that if council wants to go towards garbage containers, there's different models that communities have used, where either the community provides them, the property owner provides them. Like, there's different models of how it can be implemented and scheduled in. Although right now in the community, I would have to guess, without going around on a Thursday and checking, but I would assume now that probably well over 50% of our residents have already switched over to the new style cans, regardless of us requiring it. So it's certainly something that people are already going towards. I know some communities have provided them to seniors and low-income people also, to make sure that everyone has a standard container. It also eliminates animals and things. Part of the problem that we see as staff is that if somebody has a homemade wooden container and somebody else has a homemade wooden container, in the eye of the beholder, who decides which one's unsightly and which one isn't? We've had some complaints about people that build them and they look like coffins, and people don't like the look of them out by the end of their driveway. So it'd be nice to get some guidance from council on the garbage containers, but also in addition to not just garbage containers in certain areas in the community, and in that area that we mentioned would certainly be one of them. We do have some vacant buildings that are unsightly, and councils in the past have, I guess, had different directions on how aggressive to be on getting those addressed. I'll throw that out for conversation.
Okay, councilors, let's talk first about garbage cans. What's the best way to make sure that we don't have no garbage container, which means garbage strewn all over everything thanks to the crows, or very messy looking container? So Sheila, I see your hand raised.
There's an advantage to the people picking up the garbage if they all have the uniform bins, right? That makes it easier for them. It might, and I know in some areas in Flash Rock, they got them because it decreased the cost of the pickup for them. So I'm wondering if that's one of the things, is the uniformity of it for picking the garbage up. They don't have to be digging into these bins and grabbing things and stuff. So I think that there's an advantage to that.
Bruce Stick also, they gave each household one of the bins that they have for their dump, like the ones that I bought from Savages, or not Savages, from the gentleman that picks up the garbage. I bought a bunch of them from my buildings, and a Bruce Stick actually bought one for every household up there and gave it to them, so everybody has the same.
Well, is that what Roostic did? Did they actually purchase them for everybody?
Yep.
Okay. I was just going to ask, that was my next question right there.
Yeah, that's what I was told.
Okay.
How does that go over with people that already bought their own at a cost of $100 or whatever it costs?
Well, sometimes people
Yeah.
don't mind having a second one.
I don't want a second one.
What about,
You sell it on eBay.
so I have two things. So one thing I'm wondering is there a source of used ones anywhere where we could get them for a song? That's one thing. And the other question is, one thing we could do, because we have an electrical utility, is have, $10, we bill you an extra $10 for 5 weeks or something if you get a bin, and then you pay, you put $50 towards it, or pay the full value of it or something. Like we could give them to people and then not actually ask for cash up front, but just bill them in small increments on their electric bill, something like that.
I asked the RSC where they had done the recycle bins, why they couldn't do the garbage bins, and they said if there were communities who were interested, then they could order them because they can get a reduced rate for buying them through there.
Council was interested in considering that option of providing them or making them mandatory. I could certainly, as staff, we could come back with some proposals on numbers and what the cost would be to us or to the municipality to do it, or partnership with the homeowners or things like that. So we could sort of give council a range of options, anything from the homeowner providing them to the municipality providing them, or some hybrids in the middle there.
Well, if we were ever going to change very much about how we collected garbage, it might mean uniformity would work in our favor, but also maybe there's an issue even of a little bit of safety for the garbage handlers, like somebody mentioned about digging or bending way over. So I think that, does that make sense to the councillors, that we could ask the staff to look into, if we were to make the mandatory, what would be the way to go about equipping each home with one at no financial hardship to the people of lower income or to the town? Shall we ask the staff to see what they come up with in terms of a plan?
Agreed.
Yeah, I was just going to say that initially I would hate to tell people what kind of garbage can they have to buy and what they can't, but I do agree that and I think it'd be very easy to say that any standing structure at the end of a driveway, like you could prohibit that at the very least, right? And I don't know what our policy says or our bylaw unsightly premises says right now, but the idea of a box at the end of the driveway that is there permanently, I can see us saying that that's not allowed. But I do like the idea that you mentioned, Marianne, about potentially, billing that over a long period of time or whatever.
Okay, let's ask the staff to come up with a couple options of how to go at that. And then let's direct our attention to the question of unsightly premises. So as Dan has explained a few times over the course of the last 4.5 years, we do have a bylaw and we have a process, but where it falls down is when we actually have to go in. So Dan writes letters and says, straighten up your place, and people do or they don't, and then it gets bad again. And then really it falls to council to say, we're going to go in big time and take drastic action and then bill it to the homeowner. But the council has traditionally been shy about doing that. Is that the case, Dan?
Yeah, that'd be a fair statement. There's different times over the year where council has been a bit more aggressive, and there's been times where council's been backed off some and on certain parcels. When it happens, a lot of people, property owners will come in and tell council, okay, well, look, I'll have it cleaned up in 6 months by next year. And then council says, well, okay, well, look, hold off, don't go in. They said they're going to do it, and things like that. So, staff, we don't mind doing it, but it would be certainly good to get some clear direction up front of council's intention.
So what would clear direction look like? Like, we don't want to say to you, we'll look at each case individually. And we don't want to say, be really ruthless in a certain neighborhood. Like, what kind of clear direction what's the question that you want us to answer specifically now?
Yeah, I guess right now, like, for example, the typical polite letters that you talked about, that if people have debris in their yards and things like that, that we send out normally this time of year to ask people to clean up and things like those are pretty straightforward, and we don't need a lot of input for council on it. But the question will become around structures in the community, and we certainly don't want to target one area in the community over another. And maybe an easy place to start is to look at some abandoned properties in the community. Like, I know there's one that we've been working on the back street in Andover, a property that's been just ransacked, and the copper wire and insulation and everything stolen out of the building. Like, that one should certainly come down and be torn down. So there are some vacant properties in the community that we should look at and things, but unfortunately with some of this stuff, it will come down by a case-by-case basis. But there's different options for council to consider too when it comes to unsightly. Like, the traditional model for now is we cite them with unsightly. We ask them to clean it up by a certain date. We give them proper notices. They either comply or they don't. If they don't comply, we give them another notice saying we're going to come in on the 15th of the month, and we're going to clean it up, and we're going to send you a bill for it afterwards. And then after that, the province pays the municipality if the homeowner doesn't reimburse us. And the province then will put the amount on the tax bill for that property. That's sort of the process now. After the flood, some things that we did, and the province was partnering with us on it, is, councils do have the option to, in some cases, and I'm not suggesting it works for all cases, ask the property owner if they would like to donate the property to the municipality, depending on where it is. If the municipality assumes that it's beneficial to have the property in the municipality's name, if the land is donated, look at the cost of tearing it down, and feel if it's worth it to have that land deeded over directly into the municipality's name. Like, say, for example, if it was a small home and it was a $8,000 bill to do it, is it worth it to the municipality to acquire the land if it was donated to the community? And what could be done afterwards too, if it was one parcel between two homes or two adjacent property owners, municipality potentially then could either go to those property owners, see if they'd like to acquire it and maintain it. Council, in some cases, we've actually subdivided the lots. One property owner's cut in half and the other property owner the other half. So there's different ways to do it depending on the property and where it's located and the cost, the demo cost and things like that. So there are potentially some different options for council to consider.
So one way to proceed would be for us to say to you, can you please take action in terms of at least a letter on all the vacant, abandoned, like very dilapidated buildings by the next council meeting, and then we could see what kind of responses we got from the homeowners. Like, would that be a way to proceed?
Oh. Yes, that'd be great.
What do you think, councillors?
Sounds good.
What do you think the response would be, Dan?
Oh, it depends on the property owner, Dave. We get half will comply. Another 40% will tell us they're going to do it, and the other 10% will ignore it.
Yeah, all right.
But it is the first step. No matter what we were going to do, ultimately, it's the first step we have to take.
Talking about the one on the back street there that was a gambling house, eh?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Who physically owns that now?
It's I believe a person from Ontario.
Really?
Yeah.
You paying the taxes on it?
I'm not sure. I believe so. Mind you, the taxes aren't very much on it now, I don't believe.
There wouldn't be nothing on them. I'm surprised that didn't go back to the province.
Yeah, at the time of the flood, it was vacant, so it didn't qualify for the flood program.
Because it was vacant at the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if we, I don't know, maybe there'd be 10 or maybe there'd be more or less than that, more or fewer than that in the village. If there was a list that we were looking at for next time, and then we were looking at if there had been any response or not, and then we could even spend a little bit of time, I suppose, thinking about each case briefly, which direction, try and see if the owners on each side would want it, or I don't know, maybe we'd know more enough that we could make, because it would be nice to, it would be great to tidy up where we could, and it also reduces danger. And
it's also that.
We're
You know, it's
dealing with
also
a lot of that.
The safety side.
Yeah.
Also, too, you got landowners that they keep their houses up nice, and they got to look at that eyesore all the time.
Yeah.
This is how this issue come up on Perth Hill with the garbage. The people are tired of looking at those garbage bins and garbage all over the friggin' sidewalk up there, and that's how the issue come up. Dan's got the pictures on it. The lady went in and showed him.
That's okay. We know the idea. We've seen the idea. We've seen it happen. It's happened at the end of my own driveway with my own garbage over the years. So we all know how it works. And so we've got the garbage. We've got a plan for the garbage because we're going to ask the staff to consider what would be a way to make regularize our garbage containers. And it looks like our plan for the most dreadful buildings, which are abandoned and overrun by whatever, is to make a list, do the first step of the procedure in terms of asking the homeowner to remove the mess or tear it down or fix it up or something. So this would be moving forward, although this is always a dreadfully slow process, even with one house, let alone with a whole village.
And back to the garbage containers, if you check with your garbage collector, there's a lot of times that they will provide that right in the contract of the pickup. They will bill, and that's what they did with the Rustic and Maliseet. Maliseet has all containers picked up every week. Rustic's the same way. There's less guys on the truck. It's easier to pick up, and they don't have to handle anything.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on the topic of unsightly premises or regular garbage containers at the road from the council? Okay, I do believe we have reached the end of our agenda. And unless, no, we're just going to go for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I heard Paul. Thank you very much, councilors. Look for an email this week about whatever topic it was that we were, the sidewalk and the grass and on the side. Look for that email and make sure you answer with your 2 cents. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.